Thank you for clicking on my video. For all the people who are new on my channel, ASS is the Dutch abbreviation for ASD, Autism Spectrum Disorder. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I want to make a start with answering the question, what is ASD? A simple sounding question, but is deceivingly difficult to answer. Now, most of you probably have a picture in mind when you think about autism, like Rain Man or Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory. But what a lot of people don't realize is there are a lot more types of autism. But types of autism is not really the correct word. It's a spectrum. Autism spectrum. It differs from people who look neurotypical but aren't, to people who are non-verbal and have trouble with fine motor skills. Everything in between that and everybody outside of that spectrum is part of the autism spectrum. For diagnosing somebody with autism, there are certain guidelines. These guidelines can be found in the DSM-5. The DSM-5 stands for Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the 5th edition. This is a publication by the American Psychiatric Association, the APA, for the classification of mental disorders and using a common language and standard criteria. Let us see what DSM-5 has to say about autism. The DSM-5 diagnostic criteria are divided in 5 main points, numbered from A to E. The copy of the text of the DSM-5 will appear on the screen, but I will only summarize it in my own words. So how does the APA describe ASD? So the first section, section A, is focused on the social communication and interaction part of the ASD. In a hard way, they say a person with ASD has persistent trouble with social interactions on different fronts. And these social interaction on different fronts are divided in 3 parts. So the first part, having trouble with normal conversation or not being able to have a conversation at all. So you meet somebody at a party, and if you even go to a party, but if you're at a party or at a celebration of somebody's birthday and somebody is sitting next to you, you have trouble with having a normal conversation with that person, or not being able to start up a conversation, or not being able to react when somebody asks you something or tells you something. The second part is having trouble with non-verbal communication, not only the body language or the facial expressions, but also the tonation. Like if somebody says something really sarcastically, you usually can hear it in the tone they say it in. Not only the words, but also the tonation, and combined with the facial expression and the body language. The third point is not being able to or having trouble with maintaining friendships or other relationships, like romantic relationships, but also relationships with co-workers or peers or family members, neighbors, whatever. This one I see as a consequence of the previous 2 points, because who wants to be friends with the weird kid or the weird person? So the next main point of the DSM-5 autism criteria, number B, I summarize it with 2 words, routine and predictability, but that's my interpretation. This B category is also divided in sub-notions. The first one calls on repetitive motions and the need to organize things in a certain way, or repeat certain phrases or certain words, or repeat back what somebody just said to you. If we start with the first one, the repetitive motions, they can be called stimming. Stimming can have a really calming effect on people with ASD, but maybe even on neurotypical people, but I can't speak for a neurotypical person because I am a person with ASD. And also the things like putting things in order, like in order of the colors of the rainbow. Who doesn't love it being ordered like that? There's something satisfying in that. So the second subcategory of point B is loving and needing routine. And when this routine is broken, it can cause severe distress. Like my summary of the B category said, routine and predictability. We love it, but who doesn't? Okay, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people love routine and predictability, not only people with ASD. The third subcategory is loving one thing really, really, really much and giving it your all, especially in hobbies or interests. To go back to example from The Big Bang Theory, Sheldon Cooper really, really loves trains, and he loves speaking about trains and doesn't really pick up the cues from his friends or his roommate that he has spoken enough about trains and they are not interested anymore or don't like the subject or are bored or anything like that. So having an interest or a hobby and spending an unusual amount of time in that, and that being almost the only thing you can talk about. And the fourth category of the point B is one I, if I'm honest, really don't really understand, but I would summarize it as having a hyper or no reaction to sensory input. So sensory input can be sounds, can be light, can be details surrounding me right now, for instance, or sounds, like I live near a road and there are going cars by and they make noise and the headlights are on, and the way you react to those sensory inputs can also determine if you have ASD or not. So we're now up to point C. Point C says the symptoms have to be present from a young age, but they won't always show at a young age. This can be caused by something is called masking. Masking will say you wear a figurative mask which hides the true you, the true feelings, through behaviors, and just project and show the behaviors that are expected from you in that current situation. Like the example I made in my first video, making eye contact is one of those things. I learned I need to make eye contact, but it's not through me. I'd rather look at somebody's mouth or nose or forehead, but instead of straight in the eyes. But those behaviors started at a young age, but didn't really show or weren't really noticed until I got my diagnosis a couple of years ago. So yeah, point C. The fourth point D, say the symptoms of ASD need to impair you in any or more ways before you can be diagnosed. So if your symptoms don't impair you in your social life or your occupational life or your daily life, if they don't impair you in any way, you won't get diagnosed with autism. And the fifth and final point is the ASD symptoms may not be caused by a mental disability or lack of education. Quite a logical point. If you have a mental disability, then that can explain the symptoms, who may look like ASD but may be caused by the other impairment or the other disability. So that was my version of the summary of the DSM-5 criteria for having ASD or not. I will make another video in which I will talk about how I think I match the criteria of the DSM-5. That video will follow in the future. I hope this starts to answer your question about what is ASD, but for me, when I started my my search to answer that question, to answer the question what is ASD, this wasn't yet really clarifying. But like I said, it's a deceivingly difficult question to answer because it's not the same answer for everybody, and so I can only give you the information I found and share my interpretation with it, and then share with you on which fronts I match the criteria and I match the information that's out there. Thank you for watching my video, and please remember, like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.